I put so much work into it, and I raised so much money, and I made mood boards and vision boards, and I had so many people rallying around this project and was searching for a female director. And and my EP at the time, Cassie Nelways, who was my mentor through this process, was like, why? Like, why are you not telling this story? And I, again, started ugly face crying and said I didn't think anyone would let me. And he's like, I'd believe in it more if you did. And I never looked back. And so I went, all right, writer, producer, lead actor, and director. I'm absolutely insane. Yeah, thank you. Naivety is amazing.
First of all, thank you all for being here tonight. And Nadine, congratulations on Continue. Beautiful, raw. It is a personal story. Why don't you take us back and tell us about the journey of telling Continue? Like, where did you feel I could finally write these words down and share with the world?
One of the best things about how this all came about is it was all through an acting class. Essentially, I had an incredible coach who was actually my coach every day on set. And he would give us the freedom to write scenes and kind of like tackle what we were passionate about or things that we wanted to work on. And I just had started to really want to examine those years and those years of struggle and what I had been through. And so I started writing these scenes and putting them up in class. And when I would be finished, people would come up to me and they'd start telling me, like, me too, essentially. Like, they'd start telling me about their struggles, their life, people that I had known a really long time and was clueless to any of these details about them. And slowly I started to realize, like, okay, this could be a vessel. Like, this could be a way to start a conversation to talk about our struggles, to talk about mental health and suicide and suicidal ideation. And, and that started the journey. And I had never written a script before. And, I was scared and nervous and all of the things. And I just put one foot in front of the other and started writing. And it took a really long time before that writing was any good, But yeah, so it was a really long journey to creating this film. Yeah, that's.
Well, the script is incredible. Then, talk about getting the story made, getting Continue made, and then stepping into the director's, or sitting into the director's chair, I should say.
Yeah. I faced a lot of adversity with this film in particular because everyone had told me basically no one wants to talk about mental health or suicide. And I heard that for many years. And it was really, it was hard. And I also had some very specific things. Oh, you guys have all seen it, so I can say certain things.
We go full spoiler alert.
I know,
now,
there's
remember?
no more spoilers. But, in particular, the ending was always very important to me because the ending is my message. It's what I made this film for people who are struggling because I too have struggled most of my life. And when you're in it, you feel like you're the only person in the world that's feeling this way, and you feel like a burden and you feel alone. And oftentimes that's because nobody's really talking about it. And quite frankly, I thought, that's half of the problem. And so they would say no one wants to talk about it, and I'd say I strongly disagree. And so I'd keep fighting and fighting, and people had offered me a bigger opportunity of making this on maybe a little bit bigger budget and level if I would pull punches and I would make it more Hollywood, and it could end in the way that was a bit safer and, polished. And my answer was always the same, which is someone who's struggling is not going to relate to the pretty girl who gets everything she wants and a ring on her finger. They're just not, Thank you. So, and it was my whole message. It's the thesis of the film. I'm pleading with people to be here tomorrow, to realize that our lives can change so drastically in a short period of time. And also making that decision doesn't just change our lives and the people we love's lives and that love us. It also changes the paths of people we've never even met before, because they're going to be on our path, you know? So again, my whole message was there. And so they said, no, you know, this is how you got to do it. And I again said, I strongly disagree. And so then I was like, okay, well, that just means this is going to be a little harder journey. I've never raised this much money before. I don't know anyone with money. I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to frickin' do it. And I raised every dime of capital, and I invested my life savings, and I ended up moving back in with my parents for the first time since I was 15 years old, because the pandemic hit and we needed more money. And I'm like, great, I can't afford rent and that loan payment. So I guess Fresno, here I come. Something I never thought I'd say. And so I did, you know, essentially whatever it took to get here. And that's one of the incredible things is, a million people will tell you that you can't do it. And you just have to have utter and blind faith. I mean, same as like everyone told me I was ridiculous for dropping out of high school at 16 to move here to be an actor. You know, like, yeah, it's absurd. But I knew I had to. And I knew it was the only way I'd be happy. And I know that that's what most of us transplants in LA felt. That's why we're here. You know, that's why we're pursuing this crazy thing that we love, you know. And then to answer your question about stepping into the director's seat, you know, I think for me, I didn't realize how long I had really wanted to do that. I think I had reps and people around me that told me that I was the pretty girl and that I was, you know, this one thing, and you could only really be this one thing. And I'm gonna get real with you. I had a baby and it changed my whole life. It's the best thing on earth. And I had a 2-week-old child in my arms, and I got an email after 8 years of working with all my reps that they were dropping me. Yeah. And it was, I ugly face cried with a sleeping baby in one arm into the other arm, and then sobbed on our kitchen floor and looked at my husband and said, I think I'm going to die with no one ever knowing what lies inside of me. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I had nothing else to lose, and I had no one telling me, well, I had a lot of people telling me I couldn't do it, but no one that I believed anymore telling me I couldn't do it. And then came the journey, and it really was just a mission at first to again help people to create this project, and also to get to act and to give myself the role that I deserved and I knew I could play. And then I put so much work into it, and I raised so much money, and I made mood boards and vision boards, and I had so many people rallying around this project and was searching for a female director. And my EP at the time, Cassie Nelways, who was my mentor through this process, was like, why? Like, why are you not telling this story? And I, again, started ugly face crying and said I didn't think anyone would let me. And he's like, I'd believe in it more if you did. And I never looked back. And so I went, all right, writer, producer, lead actor, and director. I'm absolutely insane. Yeah, thank you. Naivety is amazing. You know, I'd never done it before, so I was like, oh, how hard could it be? You know? And what's really crazy is I say this often, you know, I know we all know what it is to have that burning desire inside of us to act. And it was my passion. You know, I don't think I couldn't breathe without it, you know? And on my way to my passion, I found my purpose. I was put on this planet to write and direct films, to create impact through storytelling. And it's just so funny when we make these plans and we think we know. It's like, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, is like, I love that you're making plans. I kind of have my own as well. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I guess we can see what's up with that plan. And yeah, so, I've been on this incredible journey ever since. But yeah.
I mean, it's so amazing to hear you talk tonight. Can I just ask you for a second, like, what does it mean for you to be sitting here tonight, having shared Continue, stuck to that ending that you wanted, sharing it with SAG tonight? What does it mean?
You're trying to make me cry again, aren't you? Because you said I like started to try and tell her outside of this room. Just my younger self would be so fucking proud, like we bust our asses and we don't listen to the people who tell us we're not good enough or tell us, that we can't do it. And I didn't listen, and I'm so proud that I didn't listen now. Thank you.
You talked about, playing lead actor. What was it like? So you wrote the script. What was it like to act the words that you had written and relive?
Yeah, I don't, that's like a really good question. I think when you are wearing so many hats, you almost don't have time to process it as much. And I had so many years of fighting to create it, and like workshops in our acting classes, and just like, all of the things. It's almost like I got to rehearse for like years because you're fighting to create this project, So I think it's just such an interesting journey did I really sit and think like, wow, these are your words. And now I'm thinking of it, like now these actors that you love that have joined this journey are all saying your words. It's a pretty immense and incredible thing. And, in the writing process, I was very, it's based on true events. It's based on the hardest year of my life. It's based on attempting to end my life. But I also did change a lot of things for storytelling purposes, but also because some of it is I don't want people to make my same mistakes. It wasn't necessarily an easy path, and like if you think that looked hard, there was a lot of other hard shit along the way too. So I also did that strategically so that it wasn't putting on my old skin. I'm not being myself. It was a character, and I was able to approach it in that way, and a lot of people ask like, what was it like to revisit that? And I'll say, to that respect of the acting and going there with it being based on my story and based on darkness that I, have very much lived through and survived. This time it was amazing because I had tools in my toolbox I didn't have when I was 23. I've learned so much. So I had to trust myself that I could do that and that I would be okay. But, and then there's two other parts to it. I was also surrounded by so much love and so much support. And we created this family dynamic on set. My husband, who's in the front right now, he was my producing partner. Yes. Many a nights that man has seen me cry over the Continue and been like, you can do it. And I was just surrounded by such an incredible crew of human beings who really, almost everyone who worked on this film was also affected in some way by mental health, suicide. So it really, we were all on this mission, and it was so much more personal than a film. So I always knew I wouldn't get lost. No, they wouldn't let me get lost, but also before every single scene, before I would start, I would just say a prayer that whatever came out and whatever, let me just be a vessel for the one person that this scene is for. Like, because I believe I channel when I write with muse, and it must be for a purpose, right? So, and I find when you stop thinking of yourself and you turn it outward rather than being exhausted at the end, you feel empowered because you feel like there was purpose behind it,
The casting is incredible. Talk a little bit about the casting process and what was important to you in building what has become your family.
Yeah. The casting process, I mean, I had incredible casting directors on with me. Carrie Barton, Paul Schnee, and Jennifer, they were an incredible team. I had been auditioning for them forever. So it was actually really, when I went into their office for the first time to start talking as we were casting, I sat in the chair and I went to go sit in the chair that's like the audition chair. It was like, I'm not sitting in that chair. I'm sitting back there. And it was I like literally called it out. I was like, this is very weird to be on this side of your office. And they're like, welcome. And I'm like, I know. Yeah, it was a great feeling. And then you go through the process, which is like a really interesting process of offers, because a lot of times like the artists that I knew them and a lot of those people, like I knew their work, and so we made offers, and it's a really interesting process too, because you don't necessarily know how everyone's going to be. You don't know what their vision of it will be, and so it was always like an offer with pending a meeting with me to make sure that we're going to build a family, because it was always very, very important to me that it be a very, very safe space, because where I'm asking these actors to go is really, really, heavy and dark places. And it's my job to keep them safe and to make sure everyone that is there, it's a safe environment to really explore and to go to these depths. So, and of course, like the universe just gave me these angel human beings that are all like my dear friends. And many of them were in my next film, that I did, Desperation Road. And so yeah, it was such an interesting process. And I'd say what was important to me is, when I want to go into something, because this is one of the most amazing things I ever discovered once I became a director, is like, as actors, my younger self took it so personal. Every time I was up for something, I was in the mix, I had to pin something, I was so close, and I didn't get it. And you're just like, why am I always the bridesmaid? I must not be good, And like, you start to really doubt yourself. And now on the other side of it, I'm like, no, like, because it's this intangible, made up essence I'm searching for. And like, someone can blow my mind. And I'm like, but I'm looking for this thing in their eyes. Like, my husband will literally be like, why is it that some of these people who are your favorites are your favorites? And I'm like, because when I watch them, I don't listen to them. I start to see the story that's unfolding behind their eyes, and they can say nothing. And I see, so it's like this intangible thing I search for in people's eyes. If you don't have that, like, okay, well, how do I know if I have that? You don't. Like, it's silly. Us directors have this thing, and it literally means nothing about the actor at all. Like, because I want to hire everyone. I'm going to be honest. I've been on the other side. I'm just like, yeah, we all have a role, like, and it really isn't personal. So again, the kind of art that I like to create is that like Blue Valentine, that very naturalesque, that person who just throws all of the plan to the side. I don't make plans when I act. I just don't. I make parameters. We'll know the words we're going to say. That was something like the big fight scene with Shiloh Fernandez and my character. Like, I was like, okay, well, let's define things for safety. Like, what will make you feel safe? What am I allowed to do? What are we not allowed to do? Like, what isn't, Shiloh Fernandez's answer was just, please don't hit me with the whiskey bottle. I'm like, I won't do that. I can promise you that. You're good. It's also a sugar bottle, so it'll just shatter, like, So yeah, that was like our one guideline, and then I was like, go with God. We're not going to see each other the whole rest of the day, and that was very strategic for me, because poor Trenton's just waiting there for his girlfriend to come home. He doesn't know what's about to come through that door, so I didn't want him to know at all what was coming at him, and there was no plan, and it was a huge visceral experience, because it was a huge visceral experience, and neither of us really, like, it was a beautiful unfolding, the most present moment you can have. It's like that feeling you look for as an actor of like, holy shit, and that's one of my favorite scenes, because so present. So again, what was important is like people who are game, who were ready to go there. And I'm very collaborative as a director. Like, that's one thing, as actors, like, you're asking us to trust you. We know this character, like, have a little trust. And I want to bring the actors into the conversation, and it's really the best idea wins. I mean, and I'm the same way with like the DP, the this, the that, like, I just want it to be the best it can humanly possibly be. And so really it's just like meeting a person and being like, is this date going to go further? Like, is this meant to be? It really is. It's just like a soul connection that either there or isn't. And what's really crazy is like, I don't think I've actually admitted this, but there were definitely people that I had the meeting with, people I love as actors. I love them. But we weren't soulmates, and that happens. And I love that because it leads you to who is your soulmate.
So beautiful. I mean, there is so much to talk about with this film, but, the main thing is obviously the message. The mental health, it's such a stigma. We rarely talk about it. We rarely see it in films. What does it mean for you to have this film out there with this message that you want to share with the world?
There were so many days that it didn't feel like it was going to happen. You know what? I'm going to be super honest because I'm sitting in this room with you guys, and I just feel like where else could I be more honest than in a room of artists, right? October 28th is my birthday. That'll be 6 years since first day of principal photography. That is how long it took me to find the right home and a distribution company who was brave enough to believe in my message and what I was trying to do. And so what does it mean? It means everything. It really does. Thank you. There were so many nights where it was like, man, cursing at God, like, why are you making this so hard? The hard stuff's supposed to be behind. Like, can it be a little easier? But no, it means everything. Because each time that I share it, and I see people's reactions, and they come up to me and they tell me their story, it makes it all worth it. It makes every day of not living with my parents, like, of all of it, worth it. Because I truly do believe that this film will help people, and I'm really hoping that it'll spark a conversation. And I always called it when I was trying to put this film together, I said it is a film, but it is a movement. And one of the things that was also has not been done before that was really important to me is part of the proceeds from this film go to charity. And let me be like, okay, I know, like, we're all in this business to make money or whatever, right? You're the distribution company, but can I have some of that money and give it away? And the answer would be no. So I took my personal points that were to me for writing, and I gave them to charity. Thank you. And because the film took a while to find a home, I was also able to do what was another one of my biggest dreams, was create my own nonprofit. And so there is now Continue On, which is really cool. Thank you. So when people buy a ticket for this film, part of the proceeds will go be split between Continue On and 3 other nonprofits that are already working in this world to create change to save lives. One of which I can announce because it's official, which is Bring Change to Mind, which is Glenn Close's nonprofit for mental health. Yeah, thank you. I wrote them in 2018 trying to get them on board, and now in what year are we in now? 2024? I finally got an email back. It was really amazing. So yeah, we've partnered. Part of the proceeds will go to them, and then I'm almost officially have the 2 other nonprofits that I wanted to work with, and so again, trying to create a movement here, and trying to save lives, and so yeah, I feel surreal and also such an immense pride that it's finally coming out and that I'll hopefully make a difference. Thank you.
Yeah. It's making a difference. I'm sure people appreciate you telling this. I want to talk to you quickly about the opening, because you talked about the ending. As when you were writing that opening, how did you land on that?
Well, and to be specific, you know, because I already kind of described how I work as like an actor, is like there was parameters of like what in the script, like, you know, the opening, she was destroying her house, like doing drugs, doing the things. But like really after that, it was a dance with my DP of like, follow me and let's see what flows. You know, I knew I was going to destroy the apartment, and I knew I was going to do it because that's all what happened, you know. So I wrote it as I experienced a lot of those things. But for me, what was really important, is that the ending doesn't work if the opening doesn't, because so I always knew that it opens on her attempt, because how can you do a rewind and take back to that moment if that's not where we started? So I always knew I had the ending before I had the film. I knew exactly what my message was. I knew how I was ending it. So I kind of worked backwards, and I knew the beginning and I knew the end. And so, yeah, it was just, you know, how do I immerse the audience in this world and her darkness from the opening 10 minutes of the film, so you understand the darkness she was feeling and she was in, and you start in that heavy weight, and then as she gets air, I wanted the audience to start to get air and to start to feel that relief. And again, it's not like I'm saying life is going to be perfect after that day. Like, we're still going to experience loss. There's still going to be bad days. There might be backslides, you know. But life is worth living, and you know, I want them to be here. But yeah, so the opening, I always knew I wanted to be really visceral, and I wanted to really plant the audience in her world. And very quickly, I mean, even if you see, I had the same feeling of that I wanted to create in the institution. So the opening, like 10 in the institution, feels a lot like the opening 10 of the movie, where you're like, Jesus Christ, okay, we're here, we're in it, you know?
We have to wrap it up, but as a last question, because this, you know, you share such an important message. What is the call to action? What would you like this audience to take away and do?
Well, first, please share and talk to your friends about it. That'd be nice. No. If you're struggling and you've felt anything like maybe Dean or I have, you know, find someone in your life that you can share it with. I really wanted to start a conversation. You know, I really want us all to realize that it's not rare. You know, there is so many people. I mean, honestly, statistically, like, you're more likely to have be somewhere on the mental health spectrum than not. You know, and or another thing I would love to do is check in on your friends, you know, the people you love, because the strong ones, the ones that are really good at putting on a smile, they can sometimes be experiencing the deepest and darkest pain. You know, I was the person that no one would fuck with you, and you're so strong, and and I'm like, yeah, no one else fucks with me, only I do. You know, so the truth is mental health, you know, isn't always super duper visible. And so check in on your friends, talk to someone about how you're feeling, talk about this movie. Like, I really did. I created this film to try and spark conversation. And I was like, even, you know, like, and this was just one small bit. Everyone told me that the ending, like, everyone would be really angry at me. And they're like, you can't break these rules and you can't do that. And they're going to hate you. And I was like, great. I hope they do. And I hope they leave the theater and then they go tell someone how much they don't like me. And they tell about this film that pissed them the fudge off. And then I've won because they're talking about it. And all I wanted them to do was talk. You know, thank you.
Love that. And I don't think anybody here tonight is mad at you for that ending at all. And thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. Thank you, Nadine, for sharing. Thank you to SAG-AFTRA Foundation.
Thank you. Thank you for watching and going on the journey.